Hey guys, welcome into this segment from our full-length The Onside Kick podcast. In order to get the full podcast, go down to the description, go to Blog Talk Radio / The Onside Kick to download the full thing. Enjoy, everybody.
This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And welcome back to the Onside Kick here on Most Valuable Podcast. Whether you're watching us on YouTube, first off, hello. It is great to see your wonderful faces yet again today. And if you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, Stitcher, or mostvaluablepodcast.com, thank you guys for giving us the download and or the listen today. And Mark, we are continuing our season previews coming into the 2017 NFL season, and I say that we're far away from it. It's nowhere close. Yeah. It's not as close as the college season.
We're getting there.
I'm itching for some football. Like, basketball might be done as we record this podcast Monday evening,
and we're all tired of it, right? You guys are tired of basketball at this point.
I'm itching for some tackling and some physicality out there, but we are going to preview the NFC West on this podcast, and how we're going to do it is we'll walk through the division: Niners, Rams, Cardinals, Seahawks, and for the Seahawk fans, we have a special guest, Lars Russell from fieldgoals.com will join us to end the podcast to talk about the Seattle Seahawks. But Mark, let's get right into it. We're going to start with the 49ers. 49ers, new face. Yep. They got new operations, new GM in John Lynch. Hit a home run in the draft. That's all people talked about after the draft of, wow, how good John Lynch did without being anywhere near a GM role before taking the one here for the 49ers. They also have new coach Kyle Shanahan coming in. This team bringing in a lot of free agents, and I kind of joked around with you before we hit the record button of they're the Chicago Bears of the West. They bring in Robbie Gould. They got Brian Hoyer's here. Matt Barkley's here. However, they do bring in guys like me. I look at the wide receiver Pierre Garçon coming in. Even though how old he is getting, that's a solid pickup of a veteran for this team. That really, the thing that I kind of asked about the 49ers, and I don't mean this in any ill will towards 49er fans, but we're kind of expecting another kind of not so great season from the 49ers. Am I correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the expectation coming forward. There certainly is hope and a little bit of optimism in the Bay Area right now. But you look at this team last year, and I know that a lot has changed since last year, but despite having a good running game, a very good running game, worst passing attack in the NFL, pretty much the worst defense in the NFL. They didn't score touchdowns. It's pretty much a combination of everything bad happening. That run game was a surprising bright spot for the team. There was so much going wrong, so much issue, so many problems in the locker room. The thing that I look at, though, is, and you mentioned the draft, and they did a good job in the draft as it stands right now. If you're a fan of the Onside Kick, you know my opinions on Solomon Thomas, and you know that I like him not at 3 overall.
But here's the thing I look at with that, and I know we talked about this in the past, but I'm going to say it again.
Trading back
to be the devil's advocate.
2 to 3.
I like it better at 3, getting picks from the Bears, than taking him at 2 and not getting anything from the Bears.
After that, I'm sure John Lynch was like, damn. After he saw like the Houston Texans and the Chiefs, like,
I could have
gotten a lot more for that. And then, you know what? He probably could have. Ryan Pace probably would have paid up big bucks. Not that he didn't pay a good chunk anyways, but I'm a little nervous about Solomon Thomas. That's not surprising to anybody. But for the 49ers, it was the move they wanted to make. It was the guy for them. So I get it. I do. But I think that when we look at the draft, we're going to respond well to the trades and stuff like that. But I think Solomon Thomas's success is going to play a big part for how we view this draft for the 49ers 3, 4, 5 years from now.
Well, and that's exactly it. We're right now looking at their draft class. The big one that everyone talks about is Solomon Thomas. However, what they were able to do is not just get those picks from the Bears. They also traded up and kind of snatched Reuben Foster
which is a good
away
move.
from the New Orleans Saints. Like, there was the whole story around him of like, yeah, you know what? My girlfriend was on the phone with the Saints. They wanted to ask her questions. And then while she was on the phone, she kind of muted it and showed it to me. And the Niners were on call waiting. And he hung up on the Saints to answer the 49ers call and eventually
Wouldn't
got
it have been
drafted.
funny if the 49ers were like, hey, man, if you're still there, we'll grab you. And then he's got to call back and like, oh, hey, I'm going under a tunnel, you know? So, yeah, I mean, that would be interesting. I think those two players are going to be a big role in how we view this draft class. Obviously, anybody who whiffs is going to, you know, we're going to criticize them later.
Yeah.
The big thing for the 49ers that I look at is, you know, especially when we're looking forward to next season, is you got Kyle Shanahan, and he's pretty much in complete control of this offense. But you look at these wide receivers, and I like Pierre Garçon, you know. I mean, I'm not thrilled about him. I'm not hanging up posters of him on my wall.
And this season, I feel like this season for the 49ers is going to be all about growth. And one of the positions I look at is quarterback.
Which is exactly what I was going to get to.
You have Brian Hoyer, you have Matt Barkley. However, the quarterback I'm looking at, and I know that maybe Niner fans might give me a little crap for this, because let's be honest, we're already looking to next season, either the Niners being bad enough to get one of the top quarterbacks like Darnold, Allen, Rosen, Jackson, whoever does well this year in college football, or being able to sign Kirk Cousins if he doesn't get a long-term deal with the Redskins. However, I look at C.J. Beathard, because in the third round, they take a flyer on this kid, because there was really no reason. Like, they could take a flyer on a quarterback in the third or later round, knowing that, hey, even if he doesn't play, we got Hoyer, we got Barkley. Without how Shanahan has worked with quarterbacks in the past with the Redskins and then with Matt Ryan at Atlanta, C.J. Beathard's the one I look at and I go, maybe we can see some development out of this kid. And the thing that might be interesting as well is he might be thrown into the tooth sooner than needed, because Hoyer got injured last season.
Yep.
Matt Barkley, I believe, got injured as well for the Bears.
That either one of those guys have gotten hurt. It's not the first time either one of them have lost jobs.
So there's a chance that both those guys go down this season, and we see C.J. Beathard in a Niners jersey starting a game this season.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to. Well, I mentioned Pierre Garçon because there's not really.
Well, he's the go-to guy.
These great weapons that you're excited about. Although, you know, Bruce Ellington, he's got his fans out there.
Well, they also brought in Marquise Goodwin from Buffalo, but Marquise Goodwin's not like he's my number one guy.
So when it comes to the quarterbacks, you know, both these guys have shown moments. Matt Barkley showed like one moment, and Brian Hoyer's shown a couple, but neither one of these guys are that exciting. Neither one of these guys have much promise to be there for you all the time. It's a risky situation for this offense, which already had the worst passing attack in the NFL last year. Of course, when you do that, no one's going to criticize you for cleaning house and going somewhere else. I just don't necessarily know that I see it getting all that much better, which is okay because, like you said, it's about growth. It's just about getting the other pieces, and they got a lot of pieces, especially on defense. But you just look at it and you think, okay, they're going to get a new quarterback next year. So, you know, you're talking about Beathard, but it doesn't matter. He's not playing. He might start this game or this season because Brian Hoyer gets hurt. Matt Barkley loses a job for throwing too many interceptions. But they're going to draft a quarterback next year.
I say it's interesting because the reason why I say that is because we don't know exactly what is going to happen for the Niners this season. Like, looking at their schedule, do I expect them to win a lot of games? No, because their schedule isn't the easiest. I mean, the Panthers are going to be tough. They play the Seahawks twice a year, Cardinals twice a year. You have the Titans on your schedule, the Giants, the Redskins, the Cowboys. Those are tough games. And this team could be a top 5 team in the draft again next season. But if they surprise in some games and they fall out of that top 5 for draft picks, what if they're in a situation where it's like, shit, we did too good. We did way too well.
Doesn't matter.
To where we're not in there and we're not going to get
They're probably,
the quarterback we want.
Unless they get Kirk Cousins somehow, some way. Or,
Which I would expect that's the one,
Yeah.
like, if I'm Shanahan, that's the one I'm circling. Let's pay up for the proven vet than a rookie.
They're going to, somehow end up with Jimmy Garoppolo or something like that.
Garoppolo.
They're going to be drafting a quarterback. I don't care if they're number 1 overall.
CJ
I don't care if
Beathard's
they
not the future.
somehow manage to get 32 overall. They are drafting a quarterback. There's just no question asked.
Did Mark just call Super Bowl Super Niners? Is that what you call it
It's
this year?
technically possible.
Super Bowl
They've got a
Super
1 in
Niners?
32 chance, technically.
But the thing that I also look at is the defense. And to me, the defense to me could be the one that I look at on paper having the most potential. Because like you said with the offense, the wide receivers, really it's Pierre Garçon. Like Ellington's decent. I'm not going to disrespect Ellington. Goodwin is decent, but Pierre Garçon's your guy. That's the number 1 for this team. But I look at this defense and I go, last year or 2 years ago, you add Armistead from the Pac-12 in Oregon. Last year from Oregon, you had DeForest Buckner. You're adding another Pac-12 player this year in Solomon Thomas. You're building that line. Then you have Doomerville in the linebackers. You signed Malcolm Smith over from Oakland, who Reuben Foster is going to be behind. Reuben Foster might not even play most of the season just to get him acclimated to the NFL. And you might not have to throw him in there because you do have Navarro Bowman still. You do have Malcolm Smith. And then the kind of cornerbacks is really I look at as the weakest one. I know you have Reed and Ward for safeties out there, but really this defense I feel like is going to be just get after the quarterback. If Armistead, Thomas, and Buckner can wreak havoc with the linebackers on quarterbacks, that might make up for, I'm going to say, deficiency in air quotes for the secondary. Because like I said, out of the 3 levels, the secondary is the one I look at as like that's the weakest of the 3.
Well, I'm interested for the defense because there's nowhere to go but up. Like I said, they were one of the worst defenses last year. Nobody gave up more points than the 49ers did. I mean, they gave up an average of 30 points a game. I mean, that's embarrassing. But I look at it, and I look at this defensive coordinator, and I got to admit, I don't know a ton about the guy because he's kind of a mystery. Spent some time with the Texans, spent some time with the Seahawks. He was there when they won the Super Bowl. Not as anything that special. He was a quality control coach. Going over to Jacksonville, nobody is saying that Jacksonville has an amazing defense. And then getting that defensive coordinator position under Kyle Shanahan here. And it's kind of a guy coming a little bit as a surprise to a lot of people who aren't super in depth to what teams like the depth of the coaching staff in Seattle or what the Jacksonville Jaguars are doing. So I don't know. Maybe the people in London are big fans of this guy.
Maybe.
But I just look at it that way because this team needs to go up. And they're spending those draft picks. They are acquiring free agents. They're doing everything they can. But I look at it and I think, is this the guy to rely on to do it? The highest he really got from the position area was linebacker. He was a linebacker coach for a little bit in Jacksonville. And that's certainly something that they've kind of invested in here in San Francisco. But it just makes me a little bit nervous that this is the guy you expect to turn around the worst defense in the NFL. I'm not necessarily optimistic.
Well, and the thing is, this team is not, they don't have a 1-year window. They don't have a 2-year window. I would even say maybe they don't even have a 3-year window. This team right now is all built on how do I make my offense better, and that's the main goal. Because defensively on paper, you have the pieces. Thomas has got to, Thomas is a rookie, isn't going to come out and be J.J. Watt. He'll have to develop into a star in this league. Armistead, Buckner. You have these pieces. It's like, you know what? We've planted the seeds on defense. Let's get this offense satisfied. And I think that's the main reason Kyle Shanahan, being the OC, being the head coach now, the dual kind of role guy, he's going to bring in the quarterback that he wants to tie to his hip, that he think is going to win games, bringing in Pierre Garçon, has that history from Washington with Shanahan, bringing in wide receivers and kind of building this offense. Because another guy we didn't talk about, and this is the last guy I wanted to bring up, was Carlos Hyde. We saw him his rookie year have a solid year. That first game against my Vikings Monday night, where I was thinking, man, I remember coming into that season saying the Patrick King quote I love to say, not a chance, not a chance. The 49ers beat my Vikings on Monday night.
Beat 'em.
And they beat us. They didn't just beat us. They demolished us to where we looked like the color of our uniforms after that beating. That's how bad it was. I could still remember it now with the Niners wearing their black jerseys with the red numbers on it and red lettering and their traditional just 49. It was not a good Monday night for myself because we were the late one too.
Yep.
So when you had the dual Monday night game and we're the late one. Of course, I stay up for it here in the Central Time Zone, but I want to see a resurgence from Carlos Hyde this year. I want to see him get back to that rookie season that we saw from him 2 years ago.
Yeah. I just think when it comes to the offense, and this is kind of my final thoughts on the 49ers, I mean, the whole 49er team, and I'm sorry to the 49ers fans, you're going to get mad at me for this, and I've already accepted it, so feel free to yell at me. I just won't even bother.
Will it be as bad as Bronco fans have hated me?
Probably not, because I think that they understand. At least the Broncos fans, they were coming off of a high. 49ers fans, I hope, are at least realistic. I'm not saying that this is a terrible team. I'm saying it's just mediocre across the board is really what it is. I mean, you're starting from the very bottom, so there's nowhere to go but up. Sure.
Started from the bottom, now we here.
You have, I mean, I do like Carlos Hyde, and I do like the potential there, but you're starting with guys like Brian Hoyer, who has always proven to be good enough to win a few games, but not good enough to win you those games. He's not going to be the guy winning you those games.
Which might be the perfect strategy for them this season.
Which is totally possible. But then you have Matt Barkley, the interception machine, and a rookie.
Sparkles, Barkles, baby.
Hey, I was excited for Barkley that one game. I was really excited. I was like, I'm going to buy a Matt Barkley jersey, aren't I? And then we got, these all right wide receivers. Not, like I said, not terrible. They're mediocre wide receivers. You look over to the defense, and there's a lot of these pieces that have been bought, but pieces that necessarily, I don't know if they're ready to really do what we're ready for them to do. So this whole year, to me, I just look for the 49ers fans, temper your expectations. Just say, hey, if we win 5 games,
don't
that's
be
not
like,
bad.
Don't be like us and the Bears last year, 10-6, and not so much.
Right?
That's
they had
not what it was at
potential
all.
on paper.
Yes.
Right? So the 49ers have some pieces on paper. Just if the team wins 4 or 5 games, be happy. You won 2 last year. That's the way to go up. Let your GM get another year of good drafting. Let Kyle Shanahan really start to implement his system. If there's you just mentioned the Chicago Bears. If there's anything similar to that in those last, few years, I wouldn't expect half this guy, like half the people you're seeing on the roster, don't expect him to be there next year.
Just complete turnover.
Not necessarily complete turnover, but it's just all right, we're getting some pieces. Let's see what you got. Prove it. If you don't, we're going to get somebody else, and we're going to try it next year. And you just kind of start to get some of these while you build through the draft. I mean, that's what Lynch has shown he wants to do, is build through the draft. And unfortunately, part of that is losing at the beginning of the new era.
And I mean, hey, if they can hit on draft picks, and like you said, they'll be drafting a quarterback next year, especially unless they get Kirk Cousins. If they can hit on that quarterback early, that's going to be a good thing for their future. But this is where we flip the conversation to you guys. Let us know down below in the comment section. What do you guys think coming into this year about the 49ers? Let us know down below in the comment section. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that segment from the Onside Kick. If you think the fun stops there, you're wrong, because click the video right over here. What are you thinking? Come on. click it. It's going to go away. It's going to go away. Bye, everybody.